Far from dampening foreign investors' interest in New Zealand, one Chinese property website predicts that the government's new measures will encourage it. From October, non-resident buyers will have to open a New Zealand bank account and get an IRD number. And anyone looking to buy and sell an investment property within 2 years will pay tax on the capital gain.
Andrew Taylor is the co-chief executive of Chinese international property website Juwai.com. He says he can't see the changes having any negative impact for Chinese investors.
I think, if anything, it's going to reinforce the fact that New Zealand is a strong regulated market, that there are rules in place for anyone and everyone. And if anything, it's going to give security in the fact that if you invest in New Zealand, there are rules that protect you.
So do you think, in a way, this will be seen as a good thing?
Yeah, in many ways, absolutely. In many ways, rules and enforcement actually shows how strong a property market is. And that's not, and let's face it, there are certain countries around the world where there are strong rules in place, such as the USA, Australia, New Zealand. And those are the dominant countries in which Chinese consumers are purchasing into.
What about the requirement that's coming in for all investors, if they're from overseas, to have an IRD number and also a bank account within New Zealand? What sort of onus is that going to place on people investing from China, and what will they make of that?
What they'll make of that is the fact that they need to do a little bit more homework. And let's face it, most of the buyers from China, or our Chinese consumers from all around the world buying into New Zealand, so it's not just China, most of them want to live there anyhow. Most of them want to live the New Zealand lifestyle. So having a inland tax revenue department number and also having a New Zealand bank account really just helps them once they're living there.
So what's this going to do to the market as you see it?
I don't think it's going to have any detriment. I don't think it's going to make the market explode either. I think it's going to remind everyone that New Zealand is a strong market. For us, it's actually the number 4 country, most popular country in the first quarter of this year. It's behind the US, Australia, Canada, UK, so it's the 5th most popular country, which is not bad. That's pretty good countries to be pecking yourself against.
So this isn't going to do anything to put any of the brakes on in Auckland?
Not for us. I think it might put the brakes on in Auckland more for a domestic influence than an international influence.
Why do you say that?
It's probably the unofficial capital of New Zealand, right? Just like Sydney's the unofficial capital of Australia. You think of New Zealand, you think of Auckland. But most people, it's a big city, and most local investors want to get into that. It's a big city, nice returns. These measures are put in place to make sure that if you do invest, you hold on to it for a short period of time or a lengthy period of time, and don't force up the market. So I think it's a good measure.
Do you think that people will be more inclined to hold on to property for a greater length of time? Is that going to perhaps then have some kind of effect on the rental market?
That I'm not too sure of, but I have to make something clear. Chinese investors, whether they be local or international, see property as a solid investment, and they don't just buy and flip it and move it on. They actually buy and hold. Let's not forget in Chinese culture that it's only in the last 16 years that China's been able to have its very first ever property cycle. Very first ever. So New Zealand, Australia, Canada, UK, they've all been having hundreds of years property cycles. China is the first time in 16 years. So in the Chinese culture, buying a property and holding it is a really strong asset. And you save it for future generations. So again, I pull back to it's more likely going to hit domestic market than it is going to be international buyers.
That's Andrew Taylor from the international property website Juwai.com.